Hey, good evening, everyone. Glad all of you can make it today. We are back. I'm back. Actually, Anna has been filling in for me for a little bit while I was visiting family in Taiwan. And the loyal webinar viewers will recognize the different background that I'm back in California for a little bit. So that's a little bit about me and what's been going on here. But today we're talking about college essays. So definitely glad that we're able to highlight something new, something that students are starting hopefully soon, and giving you kind of a right idea of how to get started here. I'm joined by Katie and Lindsay today, who will be our guides throughout this process today. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself, and then Lindsay?
Yeah, you got it. So, hi guys, my name's Katie. I'm Associate Consulting Director here at Illumin. I've been doing college consulting for quite a few years now, and I am leading our wonderful team of essay specialists, which Lindsay is a part of. Lindsay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be part of this team. I'm one of our essay specialists. I got my BA at Yale and then went on to another 3 postgraduate degrees, 2 in Australia, 1 in Japan, and have applied to so many things personally. And I really wish that I had had this service when I was going through the process.
For sure.
Awesome. Perfect. We will go through this. If you have been in through our webinars, there's Q&A and there's chat. You can always interact with us there. We'll always try to get to as much Q&A at the end. And with that, I'll pass it to Katie, Lindsay, whoever's starting.
Yeah, it's me. So our agenda for today, this is College Essays 101. So if you are a parent who didn't go through this process yourself, or if you're a student, a junior right now who's about to start the essays, this is a great place to start. We're going to assume nobody knows anything about essays in this webinar. So it's just straight up Essays 101. So we're going to talk about why do college essays matter. We're going to go through some questions that we often get from our students and families. Going to go through some of the basic essay types, as well as the timeline for your essays. When do you need to start? When do you need to finish? And then kind of connect that to the services that we have available at Illumin Education to help you out. So with that, I will get started. So why do college essays matter? It's a good question. And we get it a lot. And I think that families especially families who didn't grow up in the US, essays are not really a part of the college application process a lot of the time. So there is some confusion around this. So we do want to clarify. Colleges talk all the time about doing a holistic application review. And what that means is they want to take lots of components from the student's life and kind of wrap them all together to evaluate the student as a whole, so that they're giving the student as many chances as possible to show positive aspects of themselves. So big part of that obviously is the academic transcript. How did you do over the last few years? What classes did you take? Did you take advantage of rigor and the opportunities available at your school? Test scores sometimes are a part of it now. Test scores is a whole thing, and we're going to do a webinar on that, I'm sure. Extracurricular resume, obviously, what did you do when you had your choices, and how did you kind of prepare yourself for your major? Teacher recommendations, the interview, if you have one, and Lindsay is an excellent interview trainer, so come join us and she'll help you out. And then, of course, the essay. So essays are the one spot where students, if you look at this list, where students really get to communicate themselves, right, on a consistent basis. Interviews happen sometimes. If they do happen, they're like 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, and essays are very in-depth, and they give the student a chance to really express themselves and speak directly to the admissions officers. And that's really important. Otherwise, they're just looking at your profile and they don't ever get to meet you or hear about your personality. So who reads these essays that we submit? It is going to depend on the college. A lot of the things we say today are going to depend on the college and depend on the student. And that's the nature of this whole thing. It's subjective. So don't worry if you're not sure, nobody is. So it depends on the college. We have review readers a lot of the time. A review reader is somebody who is sort of the first look at an application, and they're just going to be looking for certain things that they've been told their college is looking for. They're going to flag those things. They're going to take notes. They're going to pass it up to admissions officers, which is the next level. So often in those big schools, the UCs are a good example. The admissions officers themselves, the people making the decisions, are not the ones reading the essays. The reader is reading it, summarizing it, passing it up to the admissions officer. If it is a smaller school, it will be the admissions officers themselves, and the admissions officers work in teams or committees to review certain regions or schools. So it really does depend. Sometimes if you're applying for a specific program, especially an art or music program, another person is going to be reading your application, and that person is an expert in the subject matter or the talent that you're trying to express. That's the same case in BSMD. So those are accelerated bachelor's and master's degrees in medicine. A medical person, a professor in the medical school or a professor in the pre-medical advising department is going to be the one that makes the decision of whether you're a good fit. Most of the time, though, it's likely that no one who is an expert in your field will be reviewing your application. And I want to say that specifically to our audience of very talented STEM applicants. There's a lot of you I know going into engineering, going into computer science. I'm an English major. Trust me, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's one thing that I really want to emphasize with your essays is know who you're talking to, know your audience. Your audience is not an esteemed professor of computer science. It is someone who probably graduated with a history degree or an art degree or an English degree and got a job in the admissions office. So don't rely that they're going to understand what you're saying. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it's important. Do different colleges view essays differently? Absolutely, yes. So every college is going to make decisions based on quite a few factors. Institutional goals is one of them, and we've been hearing a lot about this lately. There are different things that different colleges are lacking. So for example, a school might be 60% female, 40% male. In that case, they're looking for more male candidates. A school might only be 15% Asian American, in which case they're looking to up their population of Asian American students to be more representative of the US population. Sometimes they need a trombone player. It really just depends on what their priorities are, what they're looking for. They're looking to find unique people to join their campus community, super talented people who are going to make a good name for them. Of course, they're looking for academic preparedness, major preparation, stuff like that. The smaller a college is, the more an essay is going to matter. And that's because when you only have 1,000 students total on campus, it's really important that they know who they're picking because they want to make a community that's dynamic and interesting and fun. They don't want everybody to be exactly the same. So they're really looking at that personality aspect, the part where you get to express yourself. At the top tier, right, at Stanford, Harvard, Yale, beautiful Lindsay went to Yale. They are definitely reading these. They are not skimming these. They are paying attention because there's not a lot of factors differentiating people who are applying to these schools. They all have 4.0s. They all have incredible resumes. They all have interesting backgrounds and stories. They've all taken advantage of all the resources in their community. They all have excellent teacher recommendations. So what are you going to do? The only part that you really have control over is your essay, and they know that. And so they're going to really pay attention to how you present yourself, how you talk, what you choose to talk about when given that opportunity. Oops, sorry, I got to click again. There we go. So in general, and again, nothing is for sure at every single college, but in general, colleges are looking for essays that demonstrate the 3 Ps, which I have just coined that term. I don't think it's real. Personality, perspective, and passion. So they want to know about your core characteristics, who you are at heart. So adjectives that you might use to describe yourself, right? You might want to think of some of those and then see, are my essays conveying that part of me? So do I want to come off as funny? Do I want to come off as heartfelt? Do I want to come off as gracious? Perspective, they want to understand how you see the world and what you value in your life. And then lastly, passion. They want to see that you've got goals, you've got ideas, you've got curiosities, you've got energy, and you couldn't be more excited to go to their school and to take this next step in your life. Think about what you would be looking for if you were hiring someone or picking someone to move into your house or come to your school, right? Those are the things that you really are going to look for no matter what if you're looking at another person. So I think this is pretty logical, but it often gets a little bit lost because people really want to talk about their pride points or their accomplishments, right? And that's important, but those are also in the resume and those are also in the letters of recommendation. This is in the essay. So I'll turn it over to Lindsay for our frequently asked questions about college essays.
Thank you, Katie.
You got it.
Okay, so people want to know, do all colleges require essays? And the short answer is no, but most colleges require at least one essay, and some colleges do not at all, like the Cal State schools, but most colleges require something. Can I use the same essay for multiple colleges? The great news is yes. Many colleges have similar prompts. There is the Common App, which we will talk about in more depth, where people are actually using the same essay for multiple uses for multiple different schools, up to 20 schools. But there are also supplements, which we'll get into. But the core of what you're writing often translates, even if the question is different. So there's no issues of plagiarism or anything. Once you've written something that is your expression for the purposes of the essays, we encourage you to get it right and say it the way you want to say it, and then have that transfer over into the other prompts. So yes, you can copy and amend your essays to fit multiple applications. And people often ask, how many drafts should I write? That's very individual, but in general, aim for 3 to 5 and get feedback along the way. And one of the things that I love about working at Illumin is there is so much feedback back and forth. There is so much communication after every draft. And there's also a really good record kept of the previous drafts. So there's a real feeling of authenticity of the student's voice. You can see the very first words they wrote and the final draft as well. So that's kept very clean. And I really like working that way.
Sorry, there we go.
Sure. So people also want to know, of course, when our essays due, and throughout November and January. So it's very different depending on what schools you choose, but you will be having a very busy fall. And the way to make that a much more enjoyable and fulfilling experience is to have a busy summer as well. So people want to know, do I have to write creatively? I love creative writing. I teach creative writing. I adore creative writing, but for the purposes of the essays, no, you do not. You can have creative elements. If you are a very naturally creative writer with a lot of metaphoric thinking, then that will come out. But one of the most important things in the essays, as Katie was saying with the 3 Ps, is a passion and a personality and an authenticity that comes across, to have that language of really feeling like you're speaking to the admissions committee. They believe this is coming from, they get a sense of your character and your personality. Should this be a 5-paragraph essay? No. These are narrative pieces about you. They're not expository or academic essays about a topic, and the way that you want to say something will help dictate its form. So when should I start writing? It's a good idea to finalize your college list, select your deadlines, give yourself a sense of an overview, and get a sense of what essays should you start on first. Get that big picture view, then get organized and see the overlaps, which colleges have similar prompts, so that you can start generating material that you can use for a number of the colleges. And this cannot be emphasized enough. Get as much done in the summer as you can. First drafts are the hardest part. And one of the things that you don't really know until you just sort of dive into the fog of war is that sometimes writing a bad essay is one of the most effective things that you can do, because you will see all of the things that are missing, and it'll help guide you towards the essay that ultimately you will want to hand in, you'll be proud of, you'll sense authenticity by stumbling towards it. So just write, and write with guidance and feedback.
I love that. Okay. Essay types. So we're going to go through some of the common, well, I don't want to say common because Common App. We're going to go through Common App, but we're also going to go through some of the popular essay types that you're going to encounter as you go through this process. So Lindsay and I are going to trade off talking about these. I'll go ahead and get started with the UC personal insight questions. So UC is the University of California. That's different from California State Universities. An example of a UC is UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, Cal States, San Jose State, San Francisco State, things like that. So the Cal States, as Lindsay mentioned, are schools that do not have essays. The UCs are what we're talking about today. So what is the UC application? It's an online platform. You're going to fill out one application for all of the campuses that you would like to apply to. You don't have to apply to all of them, but they're all centralized. So you won't be able to write a why I want to go to Berkeley essay if you're also applying to LA, because they're going to read exactly the same essay. You don't have to do any more work. It's the same drafts are going to all the schools. There are 4 of them. So they're called personal insight questions instead of essays. So PICs, PIQs, however you want to abbreviate that, go for it. They're 350 words each. So 350 words times 4 essays is the limit of what you can do. Do you have to hit 350? No, but they're giving you that space. They think that's enough space. They think that's the right amount of space to describe yourself. So we want to get you as close as possible to that 350 whenever we can. And this is one of those cases where there are application readers who are going to go really, really fast through your application. So the training, just as an example, the training at UC Irvine tells their readers to go through each application within 6 minutes. And that's not only the essays, that's the academics, that's the extracurricular activities, as well as 4 350-word essays in 6 minutes. So they're going to read it really fast. And they're going to pass up kind of a summary or a comment or a rating above that. And each campus is going to do it separately, which is why, especially this year, you saw some weird decisions with the UCs, like a student would get into Berkeley, but not into Riverside, or, things like that. So the prompt options, and actually I'm going to go through this later at the very end of the presentation. We have a whole series of webinars coming up about essays, and one of them is going to focus completely on the UC PIQs. So this might be a brief overview, and if you want more information, please feel free to attend that webinar. I'll give you the date at the end of this presentation. So the prompts 1 through 8, weird formatting, sorry about that. Your leadership experience, your creative expression or problem solving, the development and demonstration of a talent or skill, how you took advantage of an educational opportunity or overcame an educational barrier, a challenge that has affected you throughout high school, an academic interest that you pursued, community service that you've done, or just an open-ended prompt that says something that makes you unique compared to other applicants. Why should they pick you? So you can pick any 4 of these that you want to. There's no preferred prompt, nothing that they want to see over anything else. Why would they offer all 8 if that was the case, right? So they want a variety. You can choose whatever you want. And great question. How do you choose them? So usually where I like to start is with the activities resume. Again, since the UCs are reading the UC readers, are going pretty quickly. We don't want to delve into like big, deep personal stories necessarily, or, I'm trying to think of another thing. You don't want to write them like a play, right? You want to give them just information that they need in order to make their decision and not distract them with a ton of details. So a good way to do that is to showcase your strongest activities or accomplishments or traits. So each of the 4 PIQs should focus on something different. And a great place to start is to look at your resume. Think about if you could only tell the college about 4 things that you've done in the last 4 years, what would those 4 things be? That's a good way to decide. Think about how your essays are going to work together. So if you're looking at all 4 and you're reading them all in a row, what is that going to show me about you? Are they going to build on each other, relate to each other? So think of it as a whole application, all 4 essays. And know that this is something that goes in addition to your activities resume. So if you've already described, I'm part of Boy Scouts of America, Troop 43, I've done these 15 things as part of your activity resume, you don't need to rehash exactly all of those details in your essay. Instead, you can go more deeply into some stories or some personal things that you did that you valued about Boy Scouts without feeling too repetitive. Let's see. So the styler approach, I already kind of went into this, but basically you need to humble brag your way through these. You need to show them that you're impressive. You need to fight for yourself, give them reasons to pick you. So this is not a time to demur and say to give somebody else the credit. This is time for you. They can't prove it. No, I'm just kidding. So you can lie a little bit, you can exaggerate a little bit, right, about what your contributions were to something, but don't go crazy. I think that if you're being as truthful as possible, but making it sound really cool, that's what adults do all the time. That's like what a resume is. So don't panic. This is also a good way, like there are those essays about overcoming a barrier, overcoming a challenge. Those are great ways to show your character, the lessons that you've learned, the person that you've become. So if you're looking at your resume and you're like, there's nothing really here, I don't really want to talk about these things, this isn't what's important to me, cool. You can write the essays about the challenges that you've been through, the problems you've solved. Tell stories, give examples, give numbers, be straightforward, be direct, help them to read it well. So organization is really important with these essays. You want to move from step 1 to step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, let's see. All right, so next up is the Common App personal statement. I'm going to turn it back to Lindsay.
Yeah, I get excited about the Common App. It's very different from the UC PIQs, which are highly coachable. There's very much a kind of method to it. I mean, every student has their individuality, has their personality, but for the UCs, there is a little bit more of a formula. The Common App is a little bit more free flowing, and it tends to be longer. So there's some creative flexibility within it, although you do see some patterns come up again and again. So the Common Application is an application platform that over 900 colleges use. And if you want to know if the college you're interested in is on the Common App, just create an account and search. You can check out on their website. Over 900 colleges are using it. With the Common App essay, there is one main statement, and then there are supplements that many of the colleges have additionally. So you can be applying to a school that takes the Common Application, but then it's also asking you for additional writing. But that one statement that you write on the Common App will automatically go to all the colleges that you select. So that Common App really goes far. Who reads the main personal statement? All of the colleges that you select have access to that statement, that essay. So there are a lot of prompt options that are similar to the UC PIQs, but also a little bit more free flowing. Share a meaningful aspect of your background and identity. Who are you? The personality aspect, the identity aspect, the heritage, how you identify yourself. Describe what you learned from a challenge or failure. There are many. You'll see that the themes come up again and again of how do you react to something? How do you change in a positive way? How do you grow? How are you a resilient human? And what have you experienced in life that will show that? So describing what you learned from a challenge or failure is something that people choose at a very high rate. What happened when you questioned a belief or idea? How intellectually curious are you? How do you interact with the world around you? How do you change when new information comes? How will you react to the vibrant, diverse, just multifaceted environment that is college? How has gratitude affected or motivated you? You know, what aspects of your life do you cherish? This is really show and tell of who you are as a person in a way that will let admissions officers know how you will best thrive in their campus with their culture, how you will align who you are with what it is that they're offering. Describe an event that sparked personal growth, another growth and change and resilience question. What topic engages or captivates you? What can you sort of thrive in expressing? And then the open-ended topic of your choice that is thematically similar to the ones offered. So a main personal statement has a pretty wide range of length, from 250 to 650 words. Don't panic. You do not need to hit 650, and you cannot go over 650. So somewhere in there between 250 and 650. In terms of what style or approach you should use, we really highly encourage you to be authentic, vulnerable, engaging, to be authentic, and in presenting the best version of yourself. Remember really what it is that's most important to you, and that also you're interacting and communicating in this situation to find a match that's really good for you. So you want to authentically express yourself. If you are a very introverted person, don't pretend to be extremely extroverted. If you are very extroverted, don't pretend that all you do is study, because there are other elements that are in their own way as important to your education as that. Whereas, if there are things that you do on your own that you cherish in that time, that's something to kind of let people glimpse in, and they want to get a sense of who you are. The Common App does focus on reflection versus facts. It's very different to the PIQs in that way. It's very much about why and how. It's a little bit more of a scene from a movie, of a scene from a literary thing. It has a lot of sensory details and less of the numeric sort of argument, debate-like structure of the UC PIQs. There's no need to discuss resume items, save those for supplement, and creative writing is welcome. But what we said earlier about you don't have to be a creative writer still holds. Certainly, we're not expecting you to write it in verse or to do some literary gimmick or something like that. They really want a clean sense of who you are as a person. And if you are somebody who is very literary and metaphoric and whatever, that's great. We absolutely work with that too. But you should not be intimidated by this. This is a chance to clarify who you are and how you will thrive in their environment. Supplemental essays are additional essays that are unique to each college. You'll know if they have supplemental essays because you'll see essay prompts in the Common App, or you can check the school website. And supplemental essays, the number of essays and what the topics are vary widely. Usually between 1 to 3, and then sometimes there are short answers, quick takes that feel almost like an improv game. Some of the questions seem very irreverent. Some of them are very short, and then some of them are entire second essays, really. And the supplements are part of the package. They are part of the whole essay umbrella, and they are very important. Is this me or is this you?
No, I went too
Okay.
far. Sorry, let me get back. Uh-oh. There's always something, huh? It froze. I'm going. I got you guys.
I had a funny, there's a funny story I wanted to share quickly though about why us questions. They'll kind of jump us ahead a little bit. It is really important to colleges that they feel that you're specifically a good match for their school. But I think also sometimes in doing these essays, in working so hard to present themselves well, students will forget that they're actually the consumer. They're the ones that are looking for the school that's a good match for them, and they should have that power. And we had a student in the very early stages. I was so glad he was at Illumin and that he had people to talk to and that this was going to get worked out. But initially he said, when I asked why he wanted to apply to Cornell, he said that he wanted to spend the weekends in New York City, and it is not really close. And then I asked if he had other reasons, and he said, well, he liked the temperature in DC over the summer, and he wanted to be in a very warm environment. And of course, Ithaca is famous for snow. So it is important when you're applying to these schools to remember that that's where you will be spending years of your life, and that will be your alma mater. So it's not just a matter of impressing a school, it's a matter of working with your consultant and finding a really good match. And you know, it was just so earnest and so sweet, and I was really glad that he was so honest with us.
I was here to get corrected because it's like 4 hours from New York.
I sunbathing in Ithaca and going to New York on the weekends. Manhattan.
So really quick, just to go back. So when we're talking about supplemental essays, we're moving forward now to why us, which is a big type of supplemental essay. So just to kind of connect that thread through. So a lot of colleges will have this. Anthony, you unmuted. Did you want to say something or?
No.
Okay.
I just thought this story of Ithaca, sunbathing in Ithaca was funny.
Okay. Just checking. So some schools will have a why us. Here's just a few examples of what we mean by a why us. So tell us why you decided to apply to the University of Wisconsin. How will opportunities at Purdue support your interests? Describe the unique qualities that attract you to the University of Michigan. So they're differently worded questions, but they're all asking the same thing. So they're asking for students to kind of articulate beyond that personal statement that they've already received. They know about you, they know who you are. Now they want you to connect yourself into their school. So the person you are, how does that line up with what we offer and who we are? And are we going to be a good fit for each other? Like Lindsay said, we're both kind of selling each other in this process. It is a business, right? So these are some examples. Lots of schools have these. We're going to talk a little bit more about these right now. So colleges ask this again to just make sure you're applying intentionally. So some kids will I heard this nightmare story on NPR on This American Life like 10 years ago, where the reviewer from University of Georgia was getting an essay about Georgia Tech, right? So they know then in that case that kid does not care about them because they didn't take 2 seconds to proofread their essay. So it's really important that you write something. You can take your writing from other schools. Like we said, we want you to be efficient. We want you to write something really well and then reuse it, but you got to double check all of your details and make sure that you're not including sunbathing in Ithaca. Many public and private schools will ask this question, and do your research, be specific, relate things together. So if you're writing a 550 word essay and the reason I'm saying this is relate what they have to who you are and who you want to be. You don't want to just write like why Michigan is so great for 550 words. You want to explain how you're going to fit at the University of Michigan. So you need to make sure there's a balance of talking about the school, but also talking about what you've done, your accomplishments, what you're going to bring to their campus and why you want to go there so badly. So balance it. Why do you want to study X? So this is another common type of essay. So instead of asking, why do you want to come to our school? This one is about your major. So Purdue, briefly discuss your reasons for pursuing the major you selected. UIUC, explain your interest in the major you selected and how you've recently explored or developed this interest. UT Austin, why are you interested in the major? So they're pretty blunt, right? It's pretty straightforward. Like, talk to us, explain why you put, 19th century poetry as your first choice major. This is how they can easily tell, right? Who's just applying strategically, who has no idea what they want to do. And this is why it gets hard when people come in and they ask, can I apply undeclared? My answer to you is, of course you can apply undeclared. They have an undeclared option. Why would they have it if you couldn't apply undeclared? But when you hit this essay, that's when it's going to get hard. How are you going to answer Purdue's question, right? If you have no idea what you want to study and where you're going. So you're going to have to understand, why am I undeclared, right? And you're going to have to be able to express that to people just as well as you would need to express why you chose your major. So we can talk for hours about undeclared, but this is a very common type of essay that you'll see pretty often. And you'll notice Purdue was used in both these examples. So Purdue has 2. It has a YS and a Y major, and each one is 100 words just to make it more challenging. So you've got like 3 or 4 sentences on each one. Again, why do they ask this? Prepared, motivated. Lots of colleges have this question. Even when we went through the UCPIQ topics, one was your academic interests, right? That could be considered a Y major essay as well. And then I like to call it a through line. I don't know if that term makes sense to everybody, but essentially you're drawing connections, you're drawing lines, you're connecting the dots between what you've done before, what you want to do in the future, and how this college kind of fits in the middle of that and connects everything together for you. Hope that makes sense. Okay. So now that we've gone over some of the common types of essays, the things you're going to encounter, we want to briefly just give you a timeline of what to expect. So I'm going to give it back to Lindsay.
Sure. I'll keep this pretty focused. What are the deadlines? It's important to double check each college's website. And in general, November 1 to 15, the first 2 weeks of November are most early action and early decision deadlines. November 30th is the UC deadline. January 1 to the 15th, first 2 weeks of January, are most regular deadlines. Some colleges, though, are due as early as October 15th, and some as late as February 1st. So you will be busy from September to January. It is a sprint, a relentless and sustained sprint. But it's really good to have the feedback and the interaction, and you will be consistently reminded of these deadlines, and there'll be a good plan of action.
For sure.
Yeah. So in a timeline in terms of June and July, it's a great time to brainstorm for Common App personal statement and UC essays, to get all your topics, to do your deep dive, to do sort of a personal inventory of everything, all the different stories that you have and the moments of growth that you can share. There's also an amazing resource that Illumin has. It's not on the slides, but I have to bring it up, which is called Boot Camp. And anyone who signs up for 10 hours or more has unlimited access to so many resources online, including a whole series of videos, animated videos that are actually pretty entertaining that I really enjoyed we got a very extensive training and had to go through and do the writing and go through the materials, and the boot camp materials are just superb. So anyway, June, July is a great time to begin writing first drafts. If you're part of boot camp, you have access to all those resources. It's a time to refine and finalize your college list, and decide if you will apply early decision or early action. And then after you've written and been writing, revise, because there are 3 to 5 drafts per essay as a standard guideline. August to October, brainstorming and drafting supplemental essays for applications due in November, that early round. Seek and incorporate feedback on drafts of UC essays and Common App personal statements. Finalize Common App personal statements, UC PIQs, and supplements for colleges on the early action decision timeline, because those do come up early. Mm-hmm. And then in November, December, submit early action, early decision applications. From the first 2 weeks in November, November 30th, the UC application deadline, really important to remember that. Begin and continue drafting supplemental essays for applications due in January. And remember, you can revise essays you submitted on the early timeline. If you are going to continue with those, then you can still revise and sharpen them up.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back just really briefly to the seek and incorporate feedback on your drafts. I think it's really easy to get kind of lost in your own essay and not really recognize maybe where the flaws are if you've been with it from the beginning, because you know how much better it is from when you started. But if you show it to someone who's never read it before, right, that's going to be a really different perspective. So that's why if you use your summer wisely, you'll have like a pretty good draft done by the time school starts. You can get friends, you can get family, you can get teachers to take a look. Your high school counselor can take a look, right? So that's why we put that in there, is we don't want to be the only people looking at your essay. It's important to get lots of feedback on this. Okay.
And it is a really significant achievement. I mean, what the students are doing is really massive, and it's such a soul-searching kind of process. When you have an essay that really works, there's such a feeling of pride. It is really something that you've made creatively, even though it's part of this whole machinery of stuff that you're putting forward. It is a really special piece that has some soul to it. So it's nice when you've given yourself time to take it through all the different drafts. Yeah.
And then one thing to clarify in here as well about revising essays you submitted, I do want to say on the Common App, I guess we should, if we do this presentation again, I'll include this, but for the main Common App statement, it used to be so that once you submitted it, it was locked in, and that was the version that went to every single college. Thank goodness they changed that. So now if you submit it to a few schools and you decide, later on that you're not really happy with what you submitted, or you God forbid, you notice a typo you want to change, like those are things that you can revise as well. So don't panic. I think I've said that a lot today, but I feel like I need to tell myself something. It's already June. It is time. So how can Illumin help you? Great question, audience. So we have hourly essay consulting available with our team of essay specialists. So what hourly coaching includes is one-on-one work. We're all on Zoom, we're all remote with your assigned essay specialist. You can choose a 5-hour or a 10-hour package. The 10-hour package includes access to our essay bootcamp, which Lindsay has such great things to say about, and that will cover your UC PIQs as well as your Common App. So what's great is you can go through the bootcamp on your own, get started, and then come to your essay specialist with your work and get feedback, right? Or you can come to them while you're working through the bootcamp and before you even choose your topics and work that way. If you don't think you need that much time, if you're just working on 1 or 2 essays, 5 hours is great and will allow you to add additional hours as you go if you need them. We have flexible scheduling and asynchronous edits. So like you can use your time in person, one-on-one on Zoom with your specialist, or you can just send them an essay and be like, yo, can you edit this? That's fine with us. We want you to use your hours how you want to use them. And if you're not, someone who likes to talk a lot and you just want to get work done, we can definitely edit offline for you as well. So it's a combination of both, and the hours all count for the same thing. We'll give you support with everything. This is a question I get a lot. Like, what do you mean, essay help? So we will help you come up with the idea. We will help you outline the idea. We will even Google the prompt for you if you need that. We will edit as you go, as many revisions as you need to feel comfortable. We'll let you know when we think it's in good shape, when it's submittable. And obviously we'll help you polish it, proofread it, no typos. So any essay you'd like, it doesn't have to be the UCPIQs, it doesn't have to be the Common App, it can be any essay that you need help with, and you can start anytime. You can start now, you can start in December. We honestly had somebody start December 20th last year and finish a couple things before the 1st. So we're flexible, okay? So to promote this a little bit more, we want to let you know that we also have something coming up called the Write Workshops, which we're starting this summer. This is a new service, and we're having a webinar coming up on June 15th at 6 p.m. to explain what the Write Workshops are. And these are going to include a 30-minute presentation, which is focused on a given topic. So as an example, we'll do one on the UCPIQs, we'll do one on the YSSA that we talked about today, and we'll include sample essays from real students, which we'll break down with you. After that, we'll do a 2-hour work session where you'll get to interact one-on-one with our essay specialists. And we will give you feedback and then also provide you with worksheets, handouts, things to shape your work as you go, even after these workshops. So if you'd like to know more information about the Write Workshops, please attend our upcoming webinar on June 15th at 6 p.m. And I'm sure Anthony has links on links to share with you. Apparently all of you come to all of these because he seems to know you and you know his background. So y'all get together. And then in our essay series this summer, we are going to cover in more depth the UCPIQs on June 27th at 6. On July 11th at 6, we're going to go deep dive into the Common App personal statement. On July 18th at 6, we're going to do a live essay edit. So we're going to have real students give us their essays and we're going to edit them right in front of your faces so you can see the kind of work that we do on our essay specialist team for our students. And then July 27th, we'll do an overview of supplemental essays. So we'll go into more detail about what we talked about today, essentially. So I will stop there. Thank you so much. So that's our website where you can find more information about our hourly essay consulting services, as including, you'll also find if you go to the About Us page on our website, you can see the bios for all of our lovely Illumin essay specialists. You can find the information about the Write Workshops. And if you have any questions, you can email essays@illumineducation.com and we'll open it up for questions.
Can I say one thing just real quick, Katie?
Yes. Okay.
Yes. I also want to encourage you folks to think about this as a kind of joining a whole support team and kind of finding an ally in this process, because we do these things, but we're also reachable pretty constantly because things are done at different times. I'll get messages from students at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll just respond when I see them. So they always have somebody to kind of correspond with and to be there as part of the process.
That's right. We want to help you. That's why we're here.
Awesome. And I put in the 2 links for the upcoming events for Write and the next webinar. So if you do want to register first, you can go there and just put down your email. You'll go, well, we'll definitely push out the emails for the upcoming webinars and things like that as well. But if you want to be proactive, definitely you can start there. A question of how soon can you start once enrolled? Good question. I think with the essay consulting, we can get you started like pretty much within like 24 hours, right? That's our goal. Yeah.
I woke up this morning, I had an email in the essays inbox, and right away I paired them with their new specialist. And so they're already connected within the first 12 hours and they can get started whenever they want. So essentially we'll pair you, the specialist will reach out to you. You can let them know where you're at, what you need help with, and the 2 of you will take it from there to schedule everything. Parents, you're welcome to meet the specialist and just get to know who's working with your kid. But most of the meetings and most of the correspondence will just be between the essay specialist and the student so that we can keep things, make the student feel welcome and able to share, right? Sometimes they don't want to share everything with, parents, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes your kids don't want to share everything with you, FYI. So we can give you, we can update you on how the student's doing, what they're working on, but things like sharing the content of the essays, we're not going to do that. But we want you to be able to support your students. And if you want to get them going on a service, now's the time. All of our specialists are open and available to take students right now.
And another question also of what determines who you get paired with, or how do you pair students? I think we'll be able to kind of roughly get an idea from high school kind of intended major, kind of give you a good guess of who might be a good fit. But Katie, do you want to elaborate on that as well?
Yeah, that's right. So when you're first signing up, you're giving us just basic information about you and your student, including where they go to high school. There's a place for comments and questions in the form, and that's where you can give us any specifics. So if you're working on, very rare schools that we don't see a lot, if you're going to try to apply abroad, right, that might be something that you want to tell us so that we can pair you with somebody who has done those applications before. If you're a transfer student trying to transfer between colleges, we have specialists who have tons of experience with that. If you're in this call and you're an 8th grader, what are you doing here? Go to bed. But you can also sign up if you need help applying to private high schools. That's something we can help with. Scholarship programs, summer programs. So let us know exactly what you need help with. And if you read a bio on the website, or you're super excited to work with Lindsay because she's so awesome, you can request her specifically in the comments line. And if she's available, I will pair you guys together.
Perfect. Let's see. Definitely. I mean, I've only got one more question. So if anyone's hesitating to ask questions, please.
It's because our presentation was so amazing.
plenty of time today. The question here, I think this was related to with the PIQs for the UC system. Since you have four PIQs, once you submit them, you can decide which UCs you want to apply for, but the PIQs go to all of them, right? So if you're going to apply for 9 schools, all 9 of them will get the PIQs. If you decide I only want to apply for Irvine, only Irvine will get it. If you pick Irvine and Davis, only Irvine and Davis will get it, right? The context, so that was context for this question, because the question was, does the UC system know if the student applied to another UC?
That's a good question. Probably. They all share the system, right? So they may know where you applied, but it doesn't affect their decision. They all make their decisions independently of one another. So every year we have students who get LA and Berkeley, right? So they're not competing. They're not trying to share students. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. But like I said, I wouldn't focus on like one UC in particular when you write your essays, right? Or say like, I really want to go to UC Berkeley if your application's also going to Irvine. Just be careful about stuff like that. But yeah, you'll just check boxes of where you'd like to apply. And if you only want to apply to one, that's fine. But the fact that you can apply to 9 with one application, you're really kind of wasting an opportunity, right? To be really efficient. So I would investigate, maybe apply to at least like 3 or 4. And if you're a student who needs a fee waiver, you can actually get a fee waiver for up to 4 UC campuses. So that's something you can talk to your high school counselor about.
There's a question about the boot camps.
Yeah.
Go
How
ahead.
can we get more info on the boot camp, to be specific, the one that gives you access to animated videos?
Yeah. So it's a Google Classroom that we will enroll you in when you sign up for your 10-hour package. And it goes in order. It comes with instructions, and it goes in order to help you develop your ideas. So Lindsay, do you want to talk about some components of bootcamp that are valuable?
I just get emotional. No, it's you're much better at an overview. I just really enjoyed personally going through it. I thought it was an amazing process, and just having that as a reference. But you give a much better overview.
Oh, sure. I mean, so it'll walk you through. It'll give you it'll tell you some of the, I guess, insider information that we figured out over the years about what a successful UCSA looks like and what the admissions officers are looking for. With the cute little animated videos, there's like a guy who looks exactly like our CEO, Elton. If any of you know Elton, it looks just like him. Anyway, it walks through what they're looking for, how they're going to review your application. It gives you a walkthrough, a breakdown of each individual prompt and how to answer it. It gives you real examples from students who have submitted those, our students who have submitted those essays in the past. It gives you brainstorming worksheets, outlining worksheets for each of those. And then it moves on to the Common App, where it helps you to brainstorm central memories in your life, things that are really important to you, and then understand different formats you can use. So different types of outlines, different approaches to the essay. And again, there's tons of samples in there. You'll have access to everything. And your essay specialist will be a teacher in the classroom so that they can review all of your work and answer your questions very easily. if you don't want to go through the whole boot camp on your own, you don't have to, but you do have that resource. So your specialist can maybe just pull out one or two things that they think that you should focus on after you have a conversation with them, right? Like maybe you're struggling specifically with the UCSA about an educational opportunity. They can just go in the boot camp, pull out those resources, email them to you, and you can work on those. So it's a resource that we all use on our team. All of our admission students use it as well, and we've spent a long time developing it and working on it, and like Lindsay said, we're really proud of it. I hope that answered the question.
Give me a moment, I'm trying to get organized.
No, it's all good.
Let's see. There was a second part to that UC question. It was a follow-up kind of Common App. Basically, do Common App schools, if you apply Common App for 10 schools, do all 10 schools know which schools you applied to? I think that one's a no. Those are not necessarily
centralized in the same way. Yeah, it's just basically like a platform that they're all subscribed to make it easier for you. But everything, like once you submit, you're only submitting to one school at a time, and they can't see the back end of your account where else you've applied.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, the additional thing is just for UCs, apply for the UCs you want to go to. Like, don't overthink it. Don't try to be extra sneaky.
And what's cool about the UCs is they all are kind of at different, if you care about this, they're all different like rankings and ratings, right? Like they're all kind of, they spread the gamut of the ranking. So if you apply to all 9, you're applying to Reaches, Targets, and Safes, no matter who you are, right? So it's kind of a great one-stop shop to kind of make sure that your college list is covered. You've got enough schools that you're going to get into, that you're going to have options to choose from. These are good questions, guys.
Sounds good. A question about why does a student need to supply a supplemental essay after submitting the early application? So I think this, assuming you submit an early decision or early action application, you may have some supplements. Potentially the school doesn't have a, let's say, YS essay. And then when you're doing the regular decision, you might have schools that do have that particular prompt, and you would also still need to address that prompt. So I hope that answers the question of thinking about like why you would need to have additional supplements after you turned in your earlies.
Yeah. So with your earlies, you can do lots of schools early if you want. You can just do one. If you just do one school on the early timeline, you still have the option to apply to other schools. But once you hear back, like let's say you apply early decision to Cornell and you get in, then you're done. Then you're not writing any more essays or submitting any other applications, but you won't know that for a while. So if you wait, you turn it in November 1st, so you're not going to hear back till December 15th, and you're just sitting there like waiting, you're going to be in big trouble. So I would just keep working on your supplements until you get your decisions back. And then once you're in some of your early schools, right, you can cut other ones off your list that were maybe lower priorities for you. Compare them together, right? Like, would I go to this school over this school? If the answer is no, then don't waste your time with the application, just settle.
And then a question about, this was related to waivers. Basically, I think it looks like a family member was saying that some schools will offer waivers during the college fair for the application. Is it safe to say don't submit the essays until those waivers are secured? I would say yes, but I would also add the note that since it specifically mentioned October college fairs, definitely, I mean, there's no reason to, if you can submit early, great. Don't rush your application. I think technically you can submit as early as August. Is that right, Katie? I forget the exact date it truly opens.
Yeah. It opens on August 1st, but a lot of schools need letters of recommendation, and your teachers are definitely not going to be ready on August 1st to send those in. So I would say probably the earliest you're submitting is maybe September or October. What you can actually do, I believe, on the Common App is you can click the box that you're applying for a fee waiver, go ahead and submit, like finish the application, and then they'll bill you essentially for the fee if you owe it. Otherwise, they'll just let it go. So you can apply at any time, but if you're not sure you're going to get that waiver, you may want to wait, and that would be a good time to call the admissions office and see what your status is.
And I think one thing of note, unless the school says rolling admissions, there's not an advantage to necessarily turning in your application early. So
good point.
Don't rush it. Make sure you have an essay you're happy with, that you've crisscrossed everything looks perfect to you, then you turn it in. Don't think getting it in day one is going to be necessarily better. So.
Okay.
And then the question about scholarships and how essays kind of play a part there. Is that typical? What does that kind of look like?
Sure. Yeah. So a scholarship app is usually going to go, well, it depends on what you're applying to. So there are big national scholarship programs, there are small local scholarships, and then there are scholarships offered by the colleges themselves. They're all going to have an application process of their own. And usually that involves essays, sometimes an interview. But it's all the same components. So they're going to look at your grades, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are based on certain characteristics or qualities. So sometimes they're going to give scholarship money for like a service-minded individual, or an individual who has really helped out the LGBTQ community at their school, or an individual who has a specific background. Maybe they come from Africa, and they have a scholarship specifically meant for students of African descent, right? So sometimes it's not based on merit. It's not based on like how you did at school. It's based on your other qualities. So yeah, you'll have to write about that and explain why you qualify. Sorry, Lindsay, I feel like I'm just taking this.
No, this is
I got this.
This is great. No, this is great. I spend so much time with the essay part and the interview consultative, and it's always a benefit hearing what consultants have, that huge picture of all the everything that's going on.
So Lindsay and I work on kind of different sides of this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say last call for questions, because I've got no more. And if anyone wants to rush in a question at the last minute, otherwise we will take off early.
Crazy. Here, let me go back just to show this again. We hope to see you all at our future webinars, especially you know, as you get going. I feel like most people just finished school, so you probably are just like dead on your couch right now. But as soon as you're ready to get going, is when we're going to start having our information available. And all of these are free. All of these are available online. Is there another question? No.
No one decided to take the chance. So
good.
We'll say goodbye. All right. Thanks for joining us today. Again, we will have all these webinars coming up. You'll get notifications, you'll get emails. So definitely stay we'll be in touch in regards to kind of the next topics and when we'll be back live again. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Bye,
Katie.
everybody.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Welcome.